people should learn to do the proper thing. We might speak about that some other time.
No, good morning, Shola. Good morning, Amechi. I think the NBC should act. The statement is expected on the NTA issue. Fintiri has won, and there's celebration, and Binani is there. I want to also say that I don't see Binani as an enemy of democracy. If you're an enemy of democracy, you will not be interested in leading a state with over how many millions of persons. If you're an enemy of democracy, you will not be fighting, spending your resources to ensure that you get votes. If you're an enemy of democracy, you will not be pushing the women folks, and including the men. Her husband, who was formerly at the UBEC as executive secretary, Professor Modibo, she will not be pushing with her agenda to lead the state. If she's an enemy of democracy, I want the supporters of Fintiri to dissuade their minds to not to see her, finger her, pull her, lift her up out as an enemy of democracy. I think she's pushing her agenda.
Are people saying she's an enemy of democracy?
If you point,
people are calling her out for the role she played.
Okay,
everybody knows that a resident electoral commissioner should not announce result. There is an illegality. People have called her out based on the way she quickly latched on to that to make her acceptance fees when she should have known, like the EFCC, when they drag you to court, they say you ought to know. She ought to know that it was an illegality.
I don't want us to drag that issue too much because don't you see it as she's a victim of circumstances? You want to see that she has leaders, whether elected or not, there are leadership of the APC in the state. So the court has handled, the INEC has handled the matter. The police have done what they have to do. For me, I want to commend her for her doggedness. Amici, let's not overflow the issue of the red or no red.
I understand.
INEC is handling that.
I understand what
I want her, Amici, sorry for cutting you. I want people to see her as be able to show that women folk can push further with their dreams. She's a respected woman, and she has not done anything that will warrant people not to say that, oh, I'm a woman, I can't struggle to achieve my dreams. No, she has done well, she has spoken well, she has done well for the women folks, and she should be celebrated.
And she has received accolades for that.
Yes, she should be celebrated.
Same way she's also received the sticks for the role she played. People said she ought to know. And if we don't interrogate such things, such actions when they happen, tomorrow it will be reinforced.
Some are even saying, Amechi, that she ought to also follow Harry and go and answer questions before a judge.
Yeah, so the role you play in law, conspiracy, is part of
crime. Okay, let the court handle the matter.
If you want to benefit from an illegality and you have taken actions and steps towards benefiting, can you be separated from that act? Even if you do in law, morally, can you do that? Yes, she has gotten the commendations for lifting the place of women in Nigeria's politics, but I see people, and she's getting a big one, even on the social media. Some people going as far as calling her action desperate. So all these things must be put on the table for, of course, the Senate citizens to make a decision. Teve.
Amici, good morning to you, good morning, listener. Shola spoke about the old Gongola state. It appears that particular part of the country is leading Nigeria in a number of ways. Recall that I think it's 2019, Taraba, that was also created out of the old Gongola state, had a woman who almost became the first female governor, the late Mama Taraba, and then we have Binani this time around. I am
going further down, yes. Joy Emodi. If not for the death of Sani Abacha, that transition would have thrown up Joy Emodi as the first governor for the Nigerian Anambra state.
Besides that, Anambra also had
the acting governor. What's her name?
The first acting
governor.
First acting female acting governor.
Even though the court, after restoring Peter Obi, said she was never. She should not be seen as ever having held such a position.
I think at this stage you guys have to doff the hat for my state Anambra. There was a time we produced, is it 2 or 3 senators, or almost all the senators were female. So we are a step ahead of others in terms of
your governor. Your state also produced a kidnapped governor. But that aside, I'm pushing, looking at the victory we've had for our democracy. In as much as we look at the negatives and all of that, those who should answer, those who should not answer. Besides, I also feel that the civil defense man that was part of the Rex entourage, civil defense also needs to act the same way the police have acted.
What did the police do?
The police have they redeployed the
Commissioner
of police who was there on election duties. We don't know what disciplinary action will be taken.
Yes, I wanted to know. I asked specifically.
Yes, we don't know which.
Because sometimes when they redeploy, it ends there. The redeployment is a normal.
I think he's back to the headquarters,
Okay.
and the Commissioner of Police in Gombe State has been transferred to.
The Police Service Commission should take up that responsibility.
Absolutely.
The IG can hardly do anything, and that's what I'm driving at.
The IG has done his bit to withdraw.
Yeah. It's now it is a Police Service Commission that will do its bit, and that's what I'm driving at. That institutions, not strong men, the way Barack Obama advised Africa when he visited, when he was president of the U.S. That's what I've seen in all of this Adamawa drama. We had a situation
institutional reaction, very strong and firm
yes.
reaction.
When somebody in INEC, the REC, did what he did, INEC as an institution responded. They suspended that exercise, and then recalled every other person. And what have INEC also done? They've written to the IG, look, we don't have the capacity to investigate this issue for possible prosecution. That possible prosecution, I want to believe that at the end of the day, the IG will recommend that INEC takes on that prosecutor responsibility. But then again, we've also seen this, the commission says it will write to the president through the SGF, and the president cannot also remove the REC. The president will have to write to the Senate, and the Senate will have to two-thirds majority of the senators voting that man should be removed as
so it's incumbent on the president to initiate that action.
Once he receives the letter, because as yesterday, I'm sure the police also said they've not received the letter. INEC said they were going to write. So that is what I'm looking at. And then yesterday, recall I spoke about the returning officer. Nobody mentioned him in all of this, but he has distinguished himself. And what did INEC say yesterday? That look, yes, we suspended this exercise, but it will resume when the returning officer decides.
And he decided
immediately. So these are institutional capacities.
Who are those left that are part of this?
You mean the villains or the heroes?
The villains.
And the director of SSS was in that place. You mentioned what's it called? You mentioned the security and civil defense.
So we expect the DSS also to
ask
respond
the director
institutionally.
What the DSS said was they are investigating the harassment
of their deputy director.
It's beyond harassment. DSS. Whoever of your personnel that was there when this illegality took place.
That is if the state director of DSS accompanied Hudu.
Yes.
To the collation
the man that was in plain clothes, we don't know who he is.
If they are certain that because he is the DSS director, the DSS should also take action.
And civil defense, we must also call them up. They must take action so that we build this institute. But I'm looking at this with what has happened in 2023 or even in November or other elections that may hold. No REC, whether in who is not even his senses, will think of doing this or no.
You know the consequences.
You know the consequences.
It's not yet Uhuru. Why am I saying so? We are in Nigeria. I'm an optimist, and I promote good governance. But we are still in this country. We are in April now.
I understand where
you get where I'm going. Where I'm going.
That it may not just be something that will fizzle out. That we need to see to the very end.
Thank you. And that's why
it's now our responsibility.
And that's why the media will need to keep the advocacy on. President Buhari will be preparing to pack his bag and go. I can bet you here on this program, this administration will do nothing about Hudu Yunus Ahari until he leaves office.
Are you not being too pessimistic?
Because
we have it on good authority, and we have said it. Teve recall that once you establish a case of corruption,
prima facie case,
prima facie, not even strong
Indictment.
enough to legally indict another. Once you arrange a prima facie evidence against any public officer and present it before the president, he acts.
Yes.
He acts.
Yes, yes.
So it's on that vein that we believe that if the report gets to the president, knowing who the president is, he will act expeditiously.
He's arriving today, and we expect him to get that report. Today is a FEC meeting, but the vice president will be presiding over the FEC meeting. But the president will arrive much later in the day, and we expect that, as we have said here, that he will get that report and act swiftly, because Nigerians are waiting. And as we have said here, this is a victory for our democracy. The INEC acted swiftly, and they concluded the collation of results and announced the winner. And the tension in Adama was calm. And this is how we want to see our democracy moving forward. The president should act and see what happens to
He has promised free, fair, and credible election, and he successfully did that by not interfering with the process. Even when PDP and the others asked him, interfere, stop INEC, do this. Even in this case, in this instance, PDP and others said he should interfere, but he did not. The interference which he will do legally is this particular case. When he gets the report, he must take that action moving forward.
The lesson we have to learn, the president took steps to ensure credible election, no doubt. By signing that electoral act, a lot of people said he will not